everybody, welcome to the AJ Awesome Show. In this episode, I will feature my interview with Kamille and Thom Latimer. I hope you like it. Hello everybody, I am here with Kamille and Thom Latimer.
Hello, hi guys.
How are we? We all good?
Yeah.
What made you decide to become a wrestler?
Do you want to go first?
Well, it was, I guess, with the first time I kind of saw it on TV, I was glued. And then all my friends were really into that when I was a kid, and I really didn't know anything about it. They sort of like would do suplexes on their bikes and tell me about it. And it was only later on down the line that I got to watch VHS tapes, which you'll have no idea what they are. But it was like DVDs almost of wrestling. Or I would stay over at my parents' friends' houses at night at like 1 a.m. and watch pro wrestling. And I don't know, it was the first thing that I was sort of glued to, and I couldn't believe you'd seen these big muscly guys throw themselves around and hit each other with chairs and do all these sort of naughty things that as a kid you're not allowed to do. So for me, I was kind of glued instantly after seeing that, and I thought, wow, I can't believe that this is what you can do for a living. I really want to do that. So
yeah. And I grew up watching it, but I definitely never thought that I would be a wrestler myself. I just enjoyed watching it with my dad. And then I went off to college and I had normal jobs, and I, didn't watch wrestling at all during that time. And then I had the normal jobs and I realized this sucks. This is really boring. And so I moved back home for a little bit and I went to a random independent show with my dad. And I just had such a good time watching, and it was a terrible show, but it was really, I don't know, it just entertained me. And I woke up the next morning and I had an epiphany, and I was like, whoa, I was born to do this. Like, I'm athletic and I used to act back in the day. And I was like, that's a mix of the two. So I Googled how to become a professional wrestler and the journey began.
yeah, my parents weren't. Kaylee's father is a wrestling fan, so I guess it kind of helped them bond, and it was kind of something they did together. Whereas my parents really didn't. They didn't understand wrestling. They still don't really understand it. They still don't really like it. So it was something that I sort of when I chose to do it, I remember even having a discussion at school when I was a kid with the teachers. And a friend of mine recently brought this up. He said, I remember the time you were a kid and you said that you were going to be a pro wrestler when you grow up. The teacher and everyone laughed at you. And so, I always was going to do it just because not that my parents didn't believe in me, but they thought it'd be impossible to do, which I understand coming from a small place in the UK. No one thinks that you're going to be able to get to America and become a professional wrestler. And it's the same with my teachers too. I kind of also did it to be able to go, haha, I managed to do what you said I couldn't do.
How did you get involved with the NWA?
Well, I got involved because David Lagana, it was actually during a time period where I thought I was kind of done with wrestling. He sent me a message and just asked, hey, are you really done? And at that time, I was also kind of missing it a little bit. So I just said, what do you got going on? And that was when they had the idea for me being Nick Aldis's insurance policy. And so I thought that was a good way to kind of dip my toe back into the wrestling world. I wouldn't be, wrestling in matches, but I would be around the business and everything. So that's how I got back into things with the NWA.
And for me, AJ, I've been in the UK on the independent scene wrestling. By this point, I'd left Impact Wrestling, and I was sort of just doing my own thing. Making a full-time living, being able to wrestle around Europe and Germany and France and Ireland and all around the UK, really. So I spent sort of the last year and a half, 2 years in the UK, because at that point, before COVID and everything, you could still wrestle, several times a week, if not more. So it was time for me to come back to America, though. I'd been in the UK long enough. I wanted to sort of get back to my real home, which I class as America. And so at that time, Billy was just sort of starting to sort of run the NWA, or at least there was rumblings about maybe having a full roster and a actual sort of TV show, whatever that meant. At the time, it was YouTube. And so by the time I came back, everything was sort of in motion. And of course, I had a relationship with Billy from before Impact, and a relationship with Nick Aldis that spans back from when we were maybe only a few years older than you. And so it was just kind of a no-brainer for me to come in once I'd got back to America.
Do you two ever get competitive with each other in the household?
Who came up with this question? Was this you?
My mom.
Yeah, I figured that. Kayla's a lot more competitive than me. I feel like I'm pretty laid back and chill. It takes a lot to sort of ruffle my feathers. But I wouldn't say so, no. But I mean, Kamille might have Kamille might have a different take on that.
I don't think we're competitive when it comes to wrestling. I think,
or working out. Like she can lift all the heavy weights. I'll have to really sit there and not do very much.
But I don't know. I don't think we're that competitive with each other.
I don't think so. Or AJ, obviously something's going on here.
No, I'm just starting to think and sometimes I used to be very competitive back in the day, but I feel like as I've gotten older, that's kind of chilled out a little bit. And so
yeah, I feel like you also want to work together in this. It's wrestling's kind of one of those things that it's kind of selfish, and you're your own entity and you worry about yourself. And so it's kind of different when you're a couple and when you're an item. You're a team. So we try to wrestle together, or if one of us is wrestling, hopefully the other one goes as well, and sort of we try and always be together. So in that aspect, it's not competitive.
Yeah.
In wrestling and in life, you always have to think about your own self, but you also have to think about other people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that wrestling is one of those things that you go into it, and it can, and not for everybody, but it is a very selfish thing, and there is a lot of things that you have to do in order to sometimes get ahead or get further. And I think the older you get, the more that you look at those things. And for me, I've changed a lot over the years. So when it comes to sort of, being selfish or thinking about myself first, that's something that I don't really do anymore. Whereas before, when I was younger, it was all about me, and it's all about how I could get to wherever that would be, whether it be WWE or somewhere else. And the older I've got, the more that I care less about those things, and I care about what's important.
What does it mean to you to wrestle at the historic Chase Park Plaza?
I think it's super exciting. There's a lot of history there. So the fact that it's going to be there again, and it's with the NWA, that's something that's super exciting to be a part of.
A special night for all the fans, especially NWA fans. I mean, it's history in the making. It's super exciting. And not only that as well, but we get to stay in. We get to actually stay in there for 5. We have rooms there for 5 days, and apparently it's a really nice hotel. So we're also looking forward to that very much.
Well, nobody in my family has been there, so we can't really give you any tips about how to survive there.
Well, we've not been yet either, but once we have, we can tell you how to survive. All right?
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Who is your pick to win the Women's Invitational Cup?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to go with Kiera Hogan. I've wrestled her before way back in the day, and she's a really good, fiery little competitor.
AJ, I'll go with Genocide. I mean, she's a robot. I mean, how are you going to beat a robot? It's a no-brainer. She's the Terminator. So I'm going to go with the Terminator.
My pick is Tootie Lynn Ramsey because I've known her for a long time now, and I really hope she gets to win.
Well, fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
But she may be strong, but I feel like Kamille, I know you'll beat your opponent, so even if she does win the cup, I don't think she'll stand a chance at the title.
Do you mean, so are you saying I got to get through Layla first?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get through Layla first, and then as long as I do that, which I'm pretty positive I will, the next night I'll face whoever wins that cup.
How have you been preparing for this weekend?
Well, funny you should say that. I'm actually about to open up a wrestling school in Nashville. Let me just see. We've not actually made the website just yet, but the website for it, which I can't actually find anymore, is well, I'll come back to that. I did have it here, and of course, I've lost it. But I'm going to open up a new wrestling school in Nashville on September the 20th. So that's sort of going to be the grand opening of it. Right now, we're just sort of setting it up, and we've got the ring in place and everything like that. And even today, we had Nick Aldis there and Jax, and then a few of our trainees sort of rolling around, helping us all, and Kaylee, helping us all get into shape, knock some of that ring rust off, do some blowing up, because you don't realize how tiring it is to wrestle, and how, a few minutes in that wrestling ring running around, you're incredibly exhausted, and you can only get that in-ring cardio from being in the ring. So every day we've been going there right now. But that doesn't open until the 20th. But right now we've got sort of, it's unlimited to us. We can go in there and spend as many hours as we want. Tomorrow we're going to be in there from 11 o'clock onwards, training all day. So we've actually been able to be in a ring and actually be able to train, which is really good, because I mean, normally other than that, it's doing
for the first time since pre-COVID. We haven't had a ring to work in since pre-COVID, so that's been nice.
Wow, I would have thought that you would have some sort of ring to work with.
Yeah, no.
Well, now we do.
We do.
Hey, I'm going to plug this to you, AJ, right now. It's going to be CCW. Well, it's ccwwrestlingtn.com. Okay, that's CZW. So it's like CCW wrestlingtn.com. But
CCW wrestlingtn.com.
Right, that's going to be the website.
But in case you couldn't get it from his mouth.
It's not been made yet. It's in the making. So, but like I said, that'll be opening up in Nashville on the 20th. So I guess when you're old enough and you're in Nashville, maybe you can come and give Jax a body slam.
Who are your inspirations in pro wrestling?
For me, Dynamite Kid, British Bulldog. Two guys that I was just showing Kaylee the other day, a match of theirs against the Malenkos. I was a big Jeff Hardy fan as a kid. I was a big Shawn Michaels fan too. I was kind of a fan of all the guys that would fly around and do a lot of the athletic stuff, even though I can't do anything that they do. But I mean, I grew up as an Attitude Era kid. So, as Jeff Hardy was definitely my guy, and someone that I idolized a lot as a kid growing up. And then years down the line, to be able to wrestle him a bunch, I've had been a storyline for Jeff and things like that, wrestled independently together. It's been kind of cool as an adult now. It doesn't feel kind of special once you're in it. But if you'd have told the 12-year-old Tom that you'd be wrestling Jeff Hardy one day when I was a kid, it would have blown my mind. So I mean, that's cool. And also, like, Jeff being one of my favorite pro wrestlers, knowing that he's a really cool guy, is super good too. Because sometimes they say don't meet your heroes or your idols, and I can say in my case I have, and they're cool.
Well, I grew up watching Edge, and so I loved Edge growing up. But I wouldn't say that that's who I stylized like my wrestling after. And now, obviously, watching, and same thing. I don't stylize my wrestling after China, but just her presence and stuff like that. Obviously, she's a big girl, and now I watch a lot of Brock Lesnar. So I really, 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 really enjoy Brock Lesnar.
I really like high flying wrestlers too. They always catch my attention whenever I watch them.
Who are some of your favorites?
I always like watching Ricochet, Jeff Hardy, and Sammy Guevara. I don't know if you could say he's really a high flyer, but he does some really cool high flying moves sometimes.
Yeah.
I saw him do a big flip from the ring into the crowd. That's high flying to me. But you won't be catching me do that, because if I did that, I won't be able to get back up like you did.
That's the end. Thanks for the interview.
Hey, thank you,
Thank
AJ.
you so much.
Have us on anytime, okay, buddy?
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the AJ Awesome Show. I'd like to thank Kamille and Thom Latimer for being my special guest. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.